I've spent 12 years working private security for people who have more money than they know what to do with. But nothing prepared me for the Harland family. Nothing prepared me for what I would find 3 floors beneath their marble mansion, sealed behind 10 tons of reinforced steel, surrounded by enough gold to buy a small country. And nothing, absolutely nothing, prepared me for the moment I opened that glass coffin and watched Celeste Harland's chest rise with a breath that shouldn't have been possible. My name is Marcus Vale, and I'm the man who was supposed to keep secrets locked away. Instead, I became the one who opened a door that some people would have killed to keep closed. Maybe they already had. The Harland estate sits on 200 acres outside Greenwich, Connecticut, hidden behind walls that look decorative, but could stop a military assault. The family made their fortune in gold, not mining it, but moving it, storing it, trading it in quantities that make central banks nervous. Raymond Harland, the patriarch, built an empire on the simple promise that his vaults were more secure than any government facility. He wasn't wrong. I'd seen the specs before I took the job. Biometric locks, motion sensors, pressure plates, thermal imaging, and a vault door that would take a shaped charge and a week of cutting to breach. They hired me because their previous head of security had a heart attack on the job, 62 years old, found slumped over his monitors in the security hub. Natural causes, they said. I believed them then. I'm not sure I believe anything they told me now. I arrived on a Thursday in late September when the leaves were just starting to turn, and the air had that sharp edge that makes you think of things ending. The mansion was exactly what you'd expect. Too many columns. Too much gold trim, the kind of place where even the doorknobs probably cost more than my car. Raymond Harland met me in his study, a room that smelled like leather and old money, and something else I couldn't quite place. Something metallic and cold. He was 70, maybe 75, with silver hair and the kind of face that had forgotten how to smile naturally. His handshake was firm, calculated, the grip of a man who'd spent his life measuring the weight of things. "Mr. Vale," he said, gesturing to a chair that probably cost more than my monthly rent. "I trust you've reviewed the security protocols." "Every page," I said. 3 times. "Good. Then you understand that discretion is not optional in this position. It's essential." His pale blue eyes fixed on me with the intensity of a man used to being obeyed. "My family's privacy is worth more than the gold in our vault. Do you understand?" I nodded. I understood. Or I thought I did. "My daughter will show you the facility," he continued, pressing a button on his desk. "She oversees the day-to-day operations of our security system." The woman who entered wasn't what I expected. Vivian Harland was 38, dressed in a charcoal suit that probably cost 5 figures, with dark hair pulled back so tight it looked painful. She had her father's eyes, that same cold blue, but where his gaze was calculating, hers was watchful. Always scanning, always measuring threats. She looked at me the way you'd look at a new lock you weren't sure you could trust. "Mr. Vale," she said, not offering her hand. "Follow me." The security hub was on the 2nd floor, a room filled with monitors showing every angle of the property. 47 cameras total, all high definition, all recording continuously to servers that backed up to 3 separate locations. Vivian walked me through each system with the precision of someone who'd memorized every circuit and wire. "The vault is 3 levels down," she said, pulling up a schematic on one of the screens. "Accessible only by a private elevator that requires both biometric verification and a 12-digit code that changes daily. Only 3 people have access: my father, myself, and my brother, Desmond." "What about your sister?" I asked. I'd seen the family photos in the hallway, 4 people, not 3. Vivian's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. "Celeste doesn't have access. She's not involved in the business side of things." There was something in the way she said it, something sharp and unfinished, like a sentence cut off mid-breath. But I didn't push, not then. She showed me the vault's external cameras, 2 angles covering the elevator entrance, 4 more covering the corridor leading to it. "The vault itself has internal sensors," she explained. "Motion, thermal, air pressure. If anything moves in there that shouldn't, you'll know immediately. Has that ever happened? Never, she said flatly. And it won't. I started that night. The previous security chief's coffee mug was still on the desk in the hub, half filled with something that had gone solid weeks ago. I threw it away and settled into the chair that still held the ghost of someone else's shape. The monitors glowed in the darkness, showing empty corridors, still gardens, the vault elevator standing silent and closed. At 2 a.m, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Welcome to the family business. Watch the vault, always the vault. I stared at the message for a long time, but when I tried to reply, the text disappeared. I checked my message history 3 times. Nothing. Like it had never existed. I told myself I was tired, new job jitters, the weight of responsibility settling in. On the second night, I met Desmond Harland. He appeared in the security hub around midnight, moving with the casual confidence of someone who owned every room he entered. He was 41, dressed in motorcycle leathers despite the late hour, his dark hair wind-blown and his hands scarred in ways that spoke of manual work that didn't match his billion-dollar background. "You're the new watchdog," he said, not unkindly. He had a bottle of scotch in one hand and 2 glasses in the other. "Drink? I'm on duty. Suit yourself." He poured himself 3 fingers and dropped into the chair beside mine. "You know what my father keeps down there? Gold, cash, whatever needs to be secure." "Secrets," Desmond said quietly, staring at the monitor showing the vault corridor. "He keeps secrets down there. Things that would destroy this family if they ever got out." He took a long drink. "You ever wonder why someone needs a vault that's secure? It's not about theft, Vale. It's about making sure certain things stay buried." I didn't know what to say to that, so I said nothing. Desmond finished his drink, stood, and paused at the door. "My sister Celeste," he said, not looking at me. "If you see her around, be kind. She's the only one of us who still has a soul." He left before I could ask what he meant. I met Celeste the next afternoon. She was in the garden, painting on a canvas set up near the fountain, her blonde hair catching the sunlight in a way that seemed almost staged. She was 23, beautiful in that fragile way that makes you think of expensive porcelain, wearing a summer dress that belonged to a different, gentler season. "You're Marcus," she said without looking up from her canvas. "The new keeper of secrets." "Just security," I said. "Same thing in this house." She finally met my eyes, and I saw something in them that her father and sister didn't have. Warmth, maybe, or humanity, or maybe just exhaustion wearing a kind face. "Do you think gold is beautiful, Marcus?" "I think it's valuable. That's not the same thing." She returned to her painting, adding a slash of red that looked like blood against a golden sky. "My family sees gold as power. I see it as a cage. We're all locked in here with it, guarding it, counting it, building our lives around it, and for what? Security," I offered. She laughed. But it was a sad sound, hollow. "Is that what you call this, being watched every moment, having every conversation recorded, every movement tracked? That's not security. That's a prison made of gold bars." I wanted to say something comforting, but the words wouldn't come, because she was right. I'd seen the cameras. I knew how many eyes were always watching. That was the last time I saw her before she disappeared. It happened that night. I was reviewing the day's footage when Vivian burst into the security hub, her face pale and her usually perfect composure shattered. "Celeste is gone," she said. "Her room is empty, her phone is here, her car is here, she's just gone." We searched every inch of the property. I pulled footage from all 47 cameras, scanning backward hour by hour. Celeste appeared in her bedroom at 10 p.m., painting by her window. At 10:47, she set down her brush, walked to her door, and opened it. The hallway camera showed her stepping out, then turning left toward the east wing. And then nothing. She simply vanished between one camera's field of view and the next, as if the house had swallowed her whole. Raymond Harland made the decision immediately. No police. "This is a family matter," he said, his voice cold and final. "We handle this internally." "Your daughter is missing," I argued. What we need," he interrupted, "is to maintain control of this situation. If word gets out that Celeste has disappeared, it could trigger questions we're not prepared to answer. Questions about this family, about our business, about things that are none of anyone's concern. You will find her, Mr. Vale, quietly, or you will be replaced by someone who can. So I searched. I interviewed the staff, 12 people who all seemed terrified to say anything meaningful. I reviewed footage until my eyes burned. I checked every room, every closet, every possible hiding place. Celeste had vanished as completely as smoke. On the 6th day, I was sitting in the security hub at 3 in the morning, half asleep, when the alarm screamed to life. Vault motion detected. My blood went cold. I pulled up the vault's internal sensors. Something was moving inside. Not much, just a small fluctuation in the thermal reading, a slight disturbance in the air pressure, but something was definitely there. I checked the elevator logs. No one had gone down. The biometric records showed no access in 8 days. The vault door's magnetic seals were intact, but something was moving inside. I called Vivian. She arrived in minutes, still in her nightgown but moving with military efficiency. Together we reviewed every sensor reading, every camera angle, every log file. "This is impossible," she whispered. "Nothing can get in there. Nothing." "Then what's setting off the sensors?" She stared at the screen for a long moment, then reached for her phone. "We're going down." Raymond and Desmond met us at the vault elevator. The old man's face was granite, unreadable. Desmond looked sick, his face pale and his hands shaking slightly. He caught me watching and shoved his hands in his pockets. The elevator descended in silence. 3 floors down, into bedrock, into the heart of the Harland fortune. When the doors opened, we faced the vault entrance, a circular door 10 feet across, polished steel inlaid with gold, sealed with locks that could hold back an army. Vivian and Raymond placed their palms on the biometric readers. Desmond entered the code. The locks disengaged with a series of heavy clunks that sounded like a giant's heartbeat. The door swung open slowly, revealing darkness beyond. I stepped in first, my flashlight cutting through the black. The vault was the size of a warehouse, shelves stretching back into shadow, stacked with gold bars that gleamed dully in my light. In the center of the room, arranged in neat rows, were wooden crates, hundreds of them. And beyond those, near the back wall, something that didn't belong, a glass coffin. I moved toward it, my heart hammering. The others followed in silence. As we got closer, my light caught something inside the coffin, something pale against a sea of green. Cash, $100 bills stacked and loose, filling the coffin like a bed. And lying in that bed of money, her blonde hair spread around her face like a halo, her chest rising and falling with shallow, slow breaths, was Celeste Harland. "Jesus Christ," Desmond breathed. Vivian stood frozen, her face white as bone. Raymond made a sound I'd never heard before, something between a gasp and a sob. I reached for the coffin's lid. It wasn't locked. It lifted easily, and the smell hit me immediately. Something sweet and chemical, like chloroform or ether. Celeste's eyes were closed, her skin pale but warm. I pressed my fingers to her neck. Her pulse was there, weak but steady. "She's alive," I said. "Call an ambulance." "No," Raymond said immediately. "No hospitals, no police. We bring her upstairs. We have a private doctor." "She's been drugged," I said. She needs privacy," Raymond snapped. "She needs protection. If this gets out, if anyone knows she was found here in the vault." He didn't finish. He didn't have to. We carried her upstairs. That sleeping beauty pulled from a coffin of cash. The private doctor arrived within the hour, asked no questions, and started an IV while checking her vitals. Celeste remained unconscious, her breathing deep and drugged. I stood guard outside her room while the doctor worked, my mind racing through impossible scenarios. The vault had been sealed for 8 days. No one had accessed it. The cameras showed nothing. The sensors detected no entry. And yet somehow Celeste had been placed inside, arranged in that glass coffin like a sleeping princess from a nightmare fairy tale. Someone in this house had done this. Someone with access, with knowledge, with the ability to move through the security systems like a ghost. I pulled up the footage again, this time focusing on the vault elevator. For 6 days, nothing. But then, on the second day after Celeste disappeared, something caught my eye. A flicker in the timestamp, barely noticeable, just a fraction of a second where the time code seemed to skip. 247:33 to 0247:37. 4 seconds missing. I dug deeper. The backup server showed the same gap. But the vault's internal logs, the ones that recorded every sensor activation, showed something different. At 0247:35, the air pressure in the vault had spiked slightly, as if the door had been opened and closed quickly. Someone had edited the footage. Not all of it, just those critical 4 seconds. And whoever had done it had access to the primary and backup systems, which meant they had administrator privileges. Which meant it was either Vivienne or Raymond. Celeste woke up 36 hours later. I was there when her eyes opened, when she gasped and tried to sit up, when the memories came flooding back and she started to scream. The doctor sedated her again, but not before she grabbed my wrist with surprising strength and pulled me close. "He put me there to save me," she whispered, her words slurred but urgent. "He said they were going to kill me. He said the only safe place was where they keep their hearts, in the gold, in the money. He said—" Her eyes rolled back and she slipped away again, the sedative taking hold. I stood there with her fingerprints still pressed into my wrist, those words echoing in my head. He put me there to save me. Who? Save her from what? From whom? I found Desmond in the garage working on one of his motorcycles, a vintage Harley that probably cost more than most people's houses. His hands were covered in grease, and there was a bottle of whiskey on the workbench beside him. "You love your sister," I said. It wasn't a question. He didn't look up from the engine. "More than anything in this goddamn world." "Then tell me what's happening. Tell me who would want to hurt her." Desmond set down his wrench slowly, wiped his hands on a rag, and took a long drink from the bottle. When he finally looked at me, his eyes were red-rimmed and exhausted. "My father isn't just a gold trader," he said quietly. "He's a facilitator. He moves money for people who can't move it themselves. Drug cartels, arms dealers, corrupt governments, anyone who needs to turn dirty money into clean gold. And 6 months ago, Celeste found out." The words hung in the air between us like a confession. "She wanted to go to the authorities," Desmond continued. "She said she couldn't live with it anymore, knowing where the money came from, knowing what our fortune was built on. My father. He told her she was being naive. Vivienne told her she was being dangerous. I told her." His voice broke. "I told her to keep her mouth shut and stay safe. But she didn't. No, she contacted a reporter, started gathering evidence, documents, recordings, everything she could find. And then 2 weeks ago, she told me she was going to publish it all, burn the whole empire down, even if it destroyed her own family." "So someone in your family put her in that vault," I said. "Drugged her, hid her there until they could figure out what to do with her." "To protect her," Desmond said urgently. "Don't you see? If my father's associates found out what she was planning, they would have killed her, made it look like an accident, or a suicide, or just made her disappear forever. Someone put her in the one place no one would ever think to look, the one place those people could never access. They put her in the heart of my father's empire." "Who?" He met my eyes. I did. The confession hit me like a physical blow. Desmond stood there, covered in grease and guilt, and I saw the truth of it in every line of his face. "I have backdoor access to the security system," he said. "I built it years ago before Vivienne took over. A way to move through the house without being seen, to access the vault without triggering the biometric logs. I've used it maybe twice in 10 years, just to prove to myself it still worked." "You drugged your own sister." "I saved her," he said fiercely. "Those men my father works with, they don't make threats. They make examples. If they knew what Celeste was planning, she'd be dead. So I took her. I kept her unconscious, kept her safe, kept her hidden until I could figure out how to get her out of the country, set her up with a new identity, give her a chance to actually live. In a coffin full of cash. Poetic, don't you think? His laugh was bitter. She wanted to expose the dirty money. I buried her in it, kept her alive with it. The thing she hated most became the thing that saved her. I stared at him, trying to process it all. The 4-second gap in the footage. You edited it. Had to, couldn't risk anyone seeing me access the elevator. But you made a mistake. The internal air pressure logs didn't match the timestamp. He nodded slowly. I figured that might happen. Hoped no one would look that deep. So what now? I asked. Celeste is awake. She knows what happened. And your father's associates. They still don't know she was planning to expose them? No, my father never told them. He was trying to contain it, convince her to stop, protect her his own way. But he was running out of time. They were asking questions, getting suspicious. In another week, maybe 2, they would have started looking for answers. And found her. Yeah. I turned away from him, my mind racing. This was so far beyond my job description it might as well be on another planet. A billionaire family built on blood money. A missing heiress turned whistleblower. A brother who drugged and buried his sister to save her life. And me, the security guard who stumbled into the middle of it all. What are you going to do? Desmond asked quietly. I thought about Celeste's painting, that slash of red against gold. I thought about Raymond Harland's cold eyes and Vivian's calculating gaze. I thought about the 12 staff members too scared to speak and the reporters who would probably never hear this story. I'm going to get Celeste out, I said, for real. Not hidden in a vault, but actually out. Somewhere safe, somewhere your father and his associates can't touch her. That's not possible. It has to be, because you're right. They're running out of time. Which means they're getting desperate. Desperate people make mistakes, but they also make bodies. Desmond studied me for a long moment, then nodded slowly. I have resources. Money they can't trace, contacts they don't know about. I was going to use them myself, but he pulled a key from his pocket and pressed it into my hand. Storage unit in Stamford. Everything she'd need to disappear. Passport, cash, accounts, and different names. I've been planning this for months. Why didn't you just take her yourself? Because I'm being watched too closely. My father doesn't trust me, hasn't for years. But you're nobody, just hired help. They won't see you coming. That stung, but it was true. I was the invisible man in a house full of people who only saw each other. I spent the next 2 days planning. Celeste was weak but recovering, lucid enough to understand what I was proposing. She cried when I told her Desmond had been the one to hide her, cried harder when I explained why. He should have let them kill me, she whispered. At least then the truth would have come out. Someone would have investigated. Maybe, I said. Or maybe it would have been ruled an accident and buried just as deep as you were. This way you're alive. You can still choose what happens next. Can I? Because it feels like that choice has been taken from me. I didn't have an answer for that. On the 7th night after finding her, I made my move. The storage unit key led me to documents that would give Celeste a new life, but only if she could get far enough away to use them. I arranged for a car, an untraceable rental, to be waiting 3 miles from the estate. I mapped a route through the service tunnels that would bypass most of the cameras. At midnight, I went to Celeste's room. She was dressed in dark clothes, her hair tied back. Looking more like a soldier than an heiress. Her hands shook, but her eyes were clear. Once we do this, there's no coming back, I said. I don't want to come back. I never did. We moved through the house like thieves, staying in the blind spots I'd memorized over 3 weeks of studying the camera placements. Down to the basement, through the service corridor, past the wine cellar and the storage rooms. We were 50 feet from the exit when the lights came on. Raymond Harland stood blocking our path, Vivian beside him. They didn't look surprised. Mr. Vale, Raymond said calmly, I'm disappointed. I had hoped you were smarter than this. Let her go, I said. Let her go. Vivian laughed, a cold sound. She's our sister, our blood. Where exactly did you think you were taking her? Away from you, away from this. This, Raymond said, gesturing at the mansion around us, is her legacy, her birthright. She doesn't get to simply walk away because she's developed an inconvenient conscience. Celeste stepped forward, her voice steady despite the fear I could see in her eyes. I know everything, Father. I have copies of everything. And if I don't check in with my contact in 48 hours, it all goes public. Your business partners, your transactions, your associates, all of it. Raymond's face remained impassive. You're bluffing. Try me. The silence stretched between them, father and daughter, fortune and conscience. Then Raymond smiled, and it was the most terrifying thing I'd ever seen. You're not bluffing, he said quietly. You actually did it. You actually set up a dead man's switch. He shook his head slowly. I taught you too well. You taught me nothing, Celeste said. Desmond taught me. He showed me how to hide things, how to protect myself, how to think 3 moves ahead. Everything you never bothered to teach me because I was just the pretty daughter who painted pictures. Desmond, Vivian breathed. He helped you. He saved me, from you, from all of this. Raymond was quiet for a long moment, his cold calculation working behind those pale eyes. Finally, he nodded. Then I suppose we have a stalemate. You have your insurance policy. We have our reputation to protect. You walk away, keep your mouth shut, and we don't come looking for you. Is that acceptable? More than acceptable, Celeste said. Good. He stepped aside, opening the path to the door. But understand this, daughter. You walk out that door, you cease to be a Harland. No inheritance, no trust fund, no family. You'll be truly alone. I've been alone in this house for 23 years, Celeste said. At least now I'll be free. We walked past them, and I half expected them to stop us, to change their minds, to call security. But they just watched in silence as we reached the door, as I pushed it open, as we stepped out into the night air. The car was where I'd arranged it. We drove in silence for an hour, putting distance between us and the estate, between Celeste and the gold cage she'd been born into. When we finally stopped at a rest area, she turned to me with tears streaming down her face. Thank you, she said. I don't even know why you did this. You barely know me. I know enough, I said. I know you're the only one in that family who still sees gold for what it really is. Just metal. Nothing worth destroying your soul over. She smiled through her tears. What will you do now? Disappear, probably. Your father doesn't strike me as the forgiving type. He's not. But Desmond is. And he has enough resources to keep you safe if you let him. I thought about that as I drove her to the airport, as I watched her walk toward a new life with a new name. I thought about it during the long drive back to Greenwich, toward an estate I would never enter again. 3 days later, I received a package with no return address. Inside was a key to a safety deposit box and a note in handwriting I recognized as Desmond's. Your severance package. Enough to start over, somewhere far from here. Thank you for giving her the chance I couldn't. The safety deposit box contained $200,000 in cash and a burner phone, with a single contact saved. Insurance. I never used it. Never needed to. The Harland family kept their word. They didn't come looking for me. Didn't try to silence me. Because silence, I realized, was the currency they valued most. More than gold. More than cash. More than all the fortune they'd built on blood and secrets. Celeste Harland is out there somewhere, living under a name I don't know, painting pictures of things more beautiful than gold. Her family still guards their vault, still maintains their empire, still facilitates transactions for people who live in shadows. And me? I took Desmond's money and disappeared into a different kind of life. I still work security, but now I know the real job isn't keeping people out. It's knowing when to let someone escape. But here's what haunts me, what keeps me awake some nights. I found Celeste breathing in that coffin of cash because Desmond loved her enough to bury her alive. Because in a family built on gold, the only safe place was the vault. Because sometimes the people who hurt you are the same ones trying to save you, and you can't always tell the difference until it's too late. So I have to ask you this. If someone you loved was in danger from the life you'd built, from the fortune you'd accumulated, from the choices you'd made, would you have the courage to bury them to keep them safe? Or would you let them burn it all down? Even if it meant watching them die in the flames. Think about that. Think about what you'd be willing to sacrifice, willing to become, willing to forgive. And if you want to hear more stories about the things people hide in vaults, the secrets families bury, and the impossible choices we make for the people we love, subscribe to the channel and leave your like for more stories of crimes. Secrets of powerful families and investigations that no one dares to tell. Until the next case.